Hello and welcome to Story English Podcast, the place where we learn real British English through compelling stories. I am Clara.
And I am Daniel. It is lovely to be here with you all again.
Today we have a story that might feel very familiar to anyone who has ever shared a living space. It is about boundaries, noise, and the strange hours some people keep.
Yes, specifically about a flatmate who decided that 3 a.m. was the perfect time for a quiet hour, which was, ironically, the loudest hour of the day.
We will explore some wonderful British phrases today. You might hear us say things like kick up a fuss or on the same page.
We will also look at how we use the past perfect continuous tense. That is when we say something like, I had been waiting for hours.
And we have some rich vocabulary for you too. Words like cacophony and exasperated will pop up naturally in the story.
So make yourself comfortable. Perhaps grab a cup of tea. Let us dive into the story of the 3 a.m. quiet hour. The sound woke me up instantly. It was not a gentle noise. It was a sharp, metallic clatter that sliced through the silence of the flat.
You were asleep, then?
Deeply asleep. It was 3:30 a.m. I remember looking at the glowing green numbers on my alarm clock and feeling an immediate spike of adrenaline.
That is a terrible feeling. When the house is supposed to be quiet, any noise feels like an invasion.
Exactly. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling. The flat was dark. The only light came from the street lamp outside, filtering through the thin curtains.
And you knew where the noise was coming from?
Oh yes, it was coming from the kitchen, which meant it was Julian. Julian was my flatmate at the time. We had moved into this 2-bedroom place in East London about 6 months prior.
Had you known him before you moved in?
Barely. We had met through a mutual friend at a pub. He seemed charming enough. He talked about being a musician, which I thought was romantic. I did not realize it meant he lived on a completely different time zone to the rest of humanity.
Oh, the creative schedule. It can be difficult for those who work 9 to 5.
I worked from home as a graphic designer. I needed sleep, I needed focus, but Julian needed inspiration, apparently, which only struck when the rest of London was dreaming.
So this was not a one-off event?
No, this was the climax of weeks of tension. But let me take you back to that specific night. The noise happened again, a pot lid hitting the floor, then the sound of the fridge door opening and closing, slamming.
It sounds incredibly frustrating. When you are tired, small sounds become enormous.
I felt my heart racing. I threw the duvet off and sat up. The floorboards were cold under my feet. I walked to my bedroom door and pressed my ear against the wood.
Listening for movement.
I could hear humming. He was humming a tune while making what sounded like a full-cooked breakfast at 3:30 in the morning. The smell of frying bacon started to drift under my door.
Bacon? At that hour?
Yes, the scent was maddening. It was not just the noise anymore. It was the sensory overload. The smell of grease, the clatter of cutlery, the hum of his voice. It was a cacophony of domestic activity in the middle of the night.
You used the word cacophony there. It is a beautiful word. It means a harsh, discordant mixture of sounds.
It was exactly that, a harsh mixture. I stood there for a minute, my hands trembling slightly. I was exasperated. I had reached my limit.
Exasperated is a strong word. It means you are intensely irritated and frustrated.
I was. I opened my door. The hallway was dim. The light from the kitchen spilled out, casting long shadows on the carpet. I walked towards the light.
You decided to confront him.
I did. I walked into the kitchen. Julian was standing at the stove. He was wearing a dressing gown that looked like it had seen better days. He turned around, spatula in hand, looking genuinely surprised. "Oh, Daniel," he said. "You were up early. Or late, depending on how you look at it."
The audacity.
I stood there. My throat felt dry. I said, "Julian, it is 3:30. Why are you cooking bacon?" He shrugged. He actually shrugged. He said, I was hungry, and I thought I was being quiet. I'm trying to respect the quiet hour.
The quiet hour?
That is what he called it. He believed that between 3 and 4 a.m., everyone else was asleep, so it was the quiet hour. Therefore, he could do whatever he wanted as long as he did not turn on the radio.
That is a very unique interpretation of quiet.
I told him that frying bacon is not quiet. Clattering pans is not quiet. He looked at me with these wide, innocent eyes. He said, but I'm whispering.
Did you feel angry?
I felt a surge of anger, yes. But mostly I felt helpless. This was not just about bacon. This was about the last 6 weeks. I had been losing sleep consistently. My work was suffering. I had missed a deadline 2 days before because I was too exhausted to think.
That raises the stakes. It is not just annoyance anymore. It is your livelihood.
Exactly. I realized in that moment, standing in the smell of burnt bacon, that I could not continue like this. I had to make a choice. Either I accept this chaos or I force a change.
And you are not a person who likes conflict, are you, Daniel?
No, I usually avoid it. I prefer harmony. But harmony was impossible when one person was living in the night and the other in the day.
So what did you do in that kitchen?
I took a deep breath. I did not shout. I said, Julian, we need to talk, properly. Not now while you are cooking, but tomorrow or later today. He agreed. He said, fine, let us chat at noon. Then he turned back to his bacon. I went back to bed, but I did not sleep. I just lay there, listening to him chew.
That must have been agonizing. The anticipation of the conversation can be worse than the argument itself.
It was. I spent the morning staring at my computer screen, unable to work. I kept rehearsing what I would say. I thought about the tenancy agreement. I thought about the deposit. I thought about where I would go if this went wrong.
You were considering moving out?
I was. The risk was high. If I kicked up a fuss, as my mother would say, he might become hostile. We might not be able to live together at all. I would have to break the lease. That costs money.
To kick up a fuss means to complain loudly or make a scene about something.
Yes, I did not want to kick up a fuss. I wanted a resolution, but I knew I had to be firm. When noon came, I knocked on his door.
How was he then?
He was awake. Barely. He opened the door looking disheveled. He had clearly gone to sleep shortly after eating his bacon. We sat in the living room. The sunlight was streaming in, which felt ironic given his nocturnal habits. I started by saying, Julian, I value our friendship, but this arrangement is not working. I explained about my work. I explained about the sleep deprivation.
Did he listen?
At first, he was defensive. He said, I pay my rent. I have a right to use the kitchen. He said, you are being too sensitive.
That is a common reaction. Gaslighting, almost. Making you feel like the problem is your reaction, not his action.
It felt like that, but I held my ground. I said, it is not about sensitivity. It is about basic consideration. We share this space. We need to be on the same page about when it is acceptable to make noise.
On the same page. That is a lovely phrase. It means to agree or have the same understanding.
Yes, I told him, we are not on the same page. Currently, you are reading a different book entirely.
That is a good way to put it.
He sighed. He finally put the spatula of defense down. He admitted that he had not realized how much noise carried through the floorboards. He said, I thought the walls were thicker.
Sometimes people genuinely do not know. They lack awareness rather than malice.
I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe he was not selfish, just oblivious. So I proposed a solution. I said, Julian, I need quiet from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. That is non-negotiable for my health.
A clear boundary.
Yes, a boundary. He looked at me. He said, but I work best at night. I said, then you need to soundproof your activities or cook things that do not require frying or eat before you come home. He did not like that. He felt restricted. He said, this is my home too. I said, yes, but my sleep is also part of this home.
It was a dilemma, his freedom versus your rest.
It was a moral dilemma about shared space. Who sacrifices more, the night owl or the early bird? I felt guilty asking him to change his nature, but I also felt angry that my nature was being disrespected.
That internal conflict is very relatable. You do not want to be the villain in the story.
No, I wanted to be the reasonable flatmate, but being reasonable sometimes means being firm. We talked for an hour. We went back and forth. Eventually, he agreed to try my rules for 2 weeks.
A trial period?
Yes, but I was skeptical. I had been let down before. The first 3 nights were quiet. I was relieved. I started to sleep properly. My work improved. I thought, perhaps we have solved this.
And then?
Then came the weekend. I had friends coming over for dinner on Saturday night. We were having a few drinks, listening to music at a reasonable volume. It was about 9 p.m.
Let me guess, Julian came home.
Julian came home, and he brought a friend, and a drum pad.
A drum pad? In the flat?
Yes, he walked into the living room while my friends were there. He said, "Hope you do not mind, just going to practice in my room." He plugged it in. Even with headphones, the thud of the electronic pads vibrated through the wall.
That is unbearable.
It was. My friends stopped talking. They looked at me. I felt embarrassed. I felt like I had no control over my own home. The agreement we made at noon was already broken.
That must have felt like a betrayal.
It did. I realized then that verbal agreements were not enough. He did not respect the boundary because there were no consequences. I stood up. I walked to his door.
The climax.
I knocked, hard. He opened it. He had the headphones around his neck. He looked annoyed. I said, "Julian, we agreed. 10 p.m. is the cutoff. It is not even 10 yet, but my guests are here." He said, "It is only a bit of tapping. Do not be so rigid." That word, rigid, it stung. It made me feel like I was the unreasonable one.
But you were not. You were protecting your peace.
I knew that, but in the moment I doubted myself. I looked at my friends in the other room. They were uncomfortable. I looked at Julian. He was defiant. I realized this was the point of no return.
What did you do?
I said, "Julian, please stop, now, or I will have to call the landlord."
You threatened to involve the landlord.
I did. It felt like a nuclear option, but I was out of options. The silence that followed was heavy. He stared at me. I stared back. My hands were shaking again. He unplugged the pad. He did not say anything. He just closed the door. I went back to my friends. We tried to continue the evening, but the mood was ruined. The tension was palpable.
Palpable, meaning you could feel it in the air.
Yes, you could feel it. After my friends left, I sat in the kitchen, the same kitchen where he had fried bacon at 3 a.m. I felt exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally.
Living in conflict is draining.
It is. I heard his door open. He came out. He looked tired, too. He said, "I am sorry. I did not think about your friends."
An apology.
It was, but it felt too little, too late. I said, "Julian, I cannot do this anymore. The trust is gone. I do not feel safe in my own home. I need to know that when I close my door, I will not be woken up." He nodded. He said, "I know. I am not good at this, at sharing." I said, "Neither am I, but I need to prioritize my well-being."
That is a mature realization. Sometimes compatibility is not about liking someone, but about living in sync.
Exactly. We agreed that he would look for a new place. It was not a fight. It was a sad acceptance. We were not enemies, but we were not compatible flatmates.
How long did it take for him to move?
About a month.
It was a month of walking on eggshells. We were polite, but distant. We avoided the kitchen at the same times. We left notes instead of talking.
The silent treatment, but civil.
Yes. When he finally moved out, I helped him carry the boxes. It was strange. There was no anger left, just relief. When the door closed behind the removal van, the flat felt incredibly quiet.
A good quiet.
A good quiet. I made myself a cup of tea. I sat on the sofa. It was 8 p.m. I turned on the television. I did not worry about who was listening. I did not worry about the time.
And did you find a new flatmate?
Yes, I found a nurse. She works shifts, but they're usually day shifts, and she sleeps like a log. We have a written agreement now. Quiet hours are strictly defined.
A written agreement. Very sensible.
It is. We are on the same page, literally. It is written on the fridge.
That is a happy ending, but it came through a difficult journey. You had to assert yourself.
I did. I learned that being nice is not always the same as being kind. Sometimes being kind to yourself means saying no to others.
That is a profound lesson. Boundaries are not walls. They are gates that you control.
Exactly. If I had not spoken up that night with the bacon, or that night with the drum pad, I would still be exhausted. I would have resented him, and eventually I would have exploded.
And that would have been worse for both of you.
Yes, so in a way, I am grateful for the conflict. It taught me how to advocate for my needs.
That brings us to the end of the story. It was a tale of noise, sleep, and finding your voice.
Indeed, and now let us look at the language we used. There are some great phrases here for you to take into your own conversations.
Let us start with the phrase, kick up a fuss. Daniel, you mentioned this earlier.
Yes, to kick up a fuss. It means to complain angrily or make a scene. You might use it if someone is unhappy with a service in a restaurant.
For example, if the food is cold, you might kick up a fuss.
Exactly, but be careful. It implies a bit of drama. It's not a polite way to complain. It suggests you are being loud about it.
So use it when you want to describe someone being difficult, not when you want to be polite yourself.
Correct. A more polite alternative might be to raise a concern. But if your friend is shouting at a waiter, you can say, do not kick up a fuss.
Pronunciation tip. We often link the words kick up a fuss. The K in kick connects to the up.
Yes, kick up a fuss. It flows quickly. Try saying it with me. Kick up a fuss.
Lovely. Now another phrase we heard was on the same page.
This is very common in business and relationships. It means to agree or understand something in the same way.
Like when you and Julian finally agreed on the rules.
Yes, we needed to be on the same page about the quiet hours. If you are planning a project with a colleague, you want to ensure you are on the same page.
It comes from the idea of reading the same page of a book together.
Exactly, so you are reading the same story. Pronunciation is straightforward. On the same page. The in the is soft.
On the same page. Very useful. What about call it a night? We did not use that in the story, but it fits the theme.
Ah, yes, to call it a night. This means to stop what you are doing and go to sleep, or end an activity for the evening.
Julian should have called it a night before he started cooking bacon.
He certainly should have. You might say to your friends at a party, it is getting late. Shall we call it a night?
It is a gentle way to suggest leaving, not abrupt.
No, it is collaborative. Shall we call it a night? It includes everyone in the decision.
Let us look at the grammar now. We focused on the past perfect continuous.
Yes, this is the tense I used when I said I had been losing sleep consistently.
Can you explain the form?
Certainly, it is formed with had been plus the verb ending in ing, so had been waiting, had been cooking, had been working.
And when do we use it?
We use it to talk about an action that started in the past and continued up to another point in the past. It emphasizes the duration.
So, in the story, you had been losing sleep before you confronted him.
Yes, the losing sleep started weeks before. It continued up to the moment of the confrontation. That is why we use this tense.
It adds depth to the story. It shows the struggle was ongoing.
Exactly. Compare it to the past simple, I lost sleep. That sounds like one night. I had been losing sleep. That sounds like a period of time.
Can you give us another example?
Sure. She had been studying for hours before the exam started. Or they had been waiting for the bus when it began to rain.
Those are clear examples. It sets the scene for another past event.
Precisely. It is the background action. The main event is usually in the past simple. I had been waiting when the bus arrived.
Now for some vocabulary. We heard the word cacophony.
Cacophony. This is a noun. It means a harsh, discordant mixture of sounds.
It is a strong word, not just noise, but unpleasant noise.
Yes, a symphony is pleasant, a cacophony is unpleasant. You might hear a cacophony of car horns in traffic.
Pronunciation. Cacophony. The stress is on the second syllable. Cacophony.
Well done. Another word was exasperated.
I felt exasperated. This is an adjective. It describes a feeling of intense irritation.
It is stronger than annoyed. It is when you have run out of patience.
Like when you explain something 3 times and the other person does not listen.
Exactly. You feel exasperated. Pronunciation, exasperated. The stress is on the second syllable. Exasperated.
Very useful for describing conflict. What about boundaries?
Boundaries. This is a noun. It refers to the limits you set for what is acceptable behavior from others.
We talked about setting boundaries with the flatmate.
Yes, healthy relationships need boundaries. It protects your mental health.
And considerate.
Considerate. An adjective. It means thinking of the needs and feelings of others.
Julian was not very considerate at 3 a.m.
No, he was not, but he learned. To be considerate is a virtue. Pronunciation. Con-sid-rate. Stress on the second syllable. Considerate.
And finally, unbearable.
Unbearable. Adjective. Something that is too bad to be endured.
The noise was unbearable.
Yes, it could not be borne. It was too much. You can say the heat was unbearable or the pain was unbearable.
These words help you describe difficult situations with precision.
They do. Instead of saying it was bad, you can say it was unbearable. Instead of saying he was annoying, you can say he was inconsiderate.
It makes your English richer, more nuanced.
Exactly. Language is about painting a picture. These words add colour to that picture.
Before we finish, we want to encourage you to try using one of these phrases this week.
Yes, perhaps try saying on the same page with a colleague or a friend. See if you can use it naturally.
Or maybe describe a noisy situation as a cacophony. It is a fun word to say.
We would love to hear how it goes. Please come back and share your experience in the comments.
We read every comment. It helps us know what you are learning.
And if you enjoy learning real British English through stories like this, please subscribe.
New episodes arrive every week. We have many more stories to share with you.
From flat share disasters to travel mishaps, there is always a story to learn from.
Thank you for spending this hour with us. It has been a pleasure.
It has indeed. Take care of yourselves and your boundaries.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.